Well, this is not their planet. I mean, this is not the first planet they've done this to either. So they're a dark influence upon people. They're that little thing in your voice, I should say, their little voice inside of your head that's trying to push you to go one way over the other. So they do the dirty work essentially for a bigger, badder thing.
You wanna roll, you wanna ride. We getting money, you know the vibe. We stunting on them, that ain't no lie. We get our blessings from out the sky. You wanna roll, you wanna ride. We getting money, you know the vibe. We stunting on them, that ain't no lie. We get our blessings from out the sky.
What's going on, y'all? It's Fully Celeb, and you tapped into the late night Convos show. Guess what? Tonight, my guest has been featured on Ancient Aliens, a show I used to watch all the time. She's been featured on the CW's new show, Mysteries Decoded. The newest episode that just came out, you can watch that on the CW. She's the host of The Dark Becomes the Light on iHeartRadio. She's the person who coined the name the Hat Man, the Shadow People. She's the author of the best-selling book, The Secret War. Ladies and gentlemen, today my guest is Heidi Hollis. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up at? Because you told me you said you grew up in a haunted house?
I have, yeah. I grew up in a haunted house. That was a crazy situation. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. But yeah, my house became haunted shortly after my mother passing, and pretty quickly after my dad moved in another lady that he was going to marry. So yeah, the haunting started then. But I don't think it was my mom. I honestly feel it was something else. There's nothing quite protective like a mother's love. And when that left, I think everything else was just fair game.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to hear that too about your mother. Like, how old were you when this happened?
I appreciate it. I was 7 years old when she passed. So.
Okay. What type of things did you experience like during that haunting?
Oh gosh, poundings, things moving on their own, apparitions. Yeah, just nuts. I mean, the worst one was having an organ playing by itself, and that was Christmas Day actually, and it was. How do you like get that in your head? You're sitting here watching something, and we just couldn't decipher it. And it was my future stepmother's organ, and we weren't familiar with it. And it just started pounding, playing by itself. And we'd seen old time Western movies before. We're like, they have automatic playing pianos, and we're like, oh. We asked our soon-to-be stepbrother, like, what? How's it do that? And he's like, it doesn't. And that's when it just like sank in, like, oh, we are dealing with something else. And ran, locked ourselves in the bathroom, and I got tossed out of the bathroom. We were sitting in there for a long time. This thing was pounding away, and my older sister, who wasn't the most nicest person, said, oh, it's too crowded in here, somebody's got to get out. And there I went, and I confronted this thing. I took it like to task, because I was like, I'm gonna lock this thing up so it'll stop making this sound, and I was successful. But then soon after that, the keyboards stopped playing. My sister's new Christmas toy started playing by itself, and I went to take the batteries out, and there weren't any batteries. So I couldn't stop it. It was a horrifying experience.
Now, at the time, did your father or did your stepmother, did they experience that too, or only?
They both were out of the house at the time. My siblings and I, we experienced it together. So my two sisters, future stepbrother, we experienced that together. Later on, my dad and stepmom experienced stuff, so much so that they decided to build a brand new house where nobody had ever lived before, so they wouldn't have to deal with any more hauntings.
Okay, I understand that. So was that your first paranormal experience?
You know what? It was the first one that came to mind. But it wasn't until 10 years later that I realized I had others. And one of them was absolutely crazy, just crazy. I had an experience that It's strange. It like hid the memory from me and my sister, and I mean, I could tell you about it if you want. It's
Oh
just
yes,
craziness.
definitely. I definitely would like that. My audience would love that too.
Uh, well, so my mom was still alive, so I had to be at least 6 years old, and my sister had to be 4 or 5, and so we're like told to go get our brother for dinner, and we're close in age, so we're competing, racing up the stairs to go get him first, and we're not even close to his bedroom. We got up the stairs, we looked down the hallway, and out of my brother's bedroom came this robotic toy clown that came out of his bedroom and did a 90-degree angle turn straight at us. We're like, this is so neat, and it starts coming closer to us. We're like, we didn't have anything remote control, and we'd never seen this toy before. We're like, so we start, running towards it to go play with it first, and that's when we got this horrible feeling. Just horror just overcame us, and we turned to run from it. And my sister Keisha, she's younger than me. She was in front of me, closest to that toy clown. I don't know how she got past me to turn and run the opposite direction, but we both started to run away from this thing. And it was like the feeling of sheer terror, this horror hitting us. And it was like, it's not like as if it was draining us, it was. And as we were running, we were literally moving in slow motion. It sounds so crazy, but we're running in slow motion. And she got past me, and she got to the top of the stairs, started going down the stairs, and I watched her lose consciousness in the middle of the stairs and fall in slow motion. And I passed out at the top of the stairs. And it was weird. My mother picked her up at the bottom of the stairs, didn't ask no questions. I woke up later, still at the top of the stairs, and we just never spoke of it. Now, flash forward 10 years later, I'm walking through the kitchen at the new house, and I said to my sister Keisha, I said, hey, you remember when we were kids and that toy clown came after us? And I don't know why the memory hit me. It was just out of nowhere. She looked at me with such terror in her eyes. She goes, I thought that was a dream. I thought that was a dream. And I was like, we do not share dreams. I said, you go over there and you draw what you saw, and I'll go over here and draw what I saw. And we both drew the same thing. And it was as if this thing was levitating, coming towards us. And talk about not liking clowns, we had to deal with something like that. It was horrifying.
So would that be like the most scariest thing that you experienced paranormal, or have you experienced anything more terrorizing than that in your lifetime? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I know the conversation's getting a little spooky for y'all. Make sure y'all sleep with your lights on and cuddle up with your teddy bears or whatever y'all do. But also, while you doing that, make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, and fave this joint. Search Philly Celeb Studios on all streaming platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Google, all of that shit. Anybody that got a streaming platform, just search Philly Celeb Studios. And while you at it, make sure you search for Heidi Hollis. Make sure you purchase her books. Make sure you listen to her podcast, because you might have some paranormal shit going on and you don't know how to stop it, but she got a way to help you. Make sure you tap in.
I've had some really positive experiences that were... they're not as thrilling to people because people love to be scared. And it's like, look, I deal in demons and the devil. I'm the person who named Shadow People, and I named Hat Man. So anything that you see out there, if you don't see my face on it, I didn't make it. And people just ripping it off. But, I'm a Black woman, and that's to be expected to an extent, but come on now.
No, I understand.
It's like, it's just been a little crazy. But so I'm trying to make sure that I'm making sure the proper information is put out there, because it's causing harm when people put out information that isn't quite what it should be. And when you put 99% of the truth and then you put that 1% of false information, I'm getting emails saying, why did you do a show like that? I'm like, I didn't do a show or this film. I'm like, that's not mine. What is going on? So the distortion of the truth, it's just kind of like the UFO phenomena. It's, they put out a little dab here and a little dab there. And if they're telling you a lie, it causes people to be steered in the wrong direction. And that's what's going on with my information on these two phenomena, and there's a reason behind everything. You got to wonder why that is. So, but it's when it comes to the more positive stuff, this is not a topic that people really want to talk on so much. I've had encounters with something beyond belief, and it was Jesus, literally. Yes. Literally. And I was a skeptic.
You wrote a book about that, right?
I did, but I was a skeptic. I first wrote a book about how if Jesus were around, I think I would have seen him by now. I was that much of a skeptic of Jesus popping up for people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how much of a skeptic I was. So I had to rewrite that chapter, because just before I put that book out is when I saw him the first time. And, I wasn't a church goer. I still am not. Not a Bible thumper. I believe Jesus was a historical figure that was said to come back. I knew he died for us. I knew I had the memorized stuff, but I didn't know how deep it all went, and really changed everything for me when he showed up. And I had to sing a different tune and figure it out.
So how did you meet Jesus? Like, how did he come to you, and like when did he come to you?
Oh man, that's a whole lot. I could tell you the whole book.
No, don't tell us the whole book. We're gonna check it out, but just give us a little brief synopsis.
Yeah, well, he showed up several times, and it wasn't like I've heard of people saying, "Oh, I saw Jesus," and they have a book and a half of quotes from him. I'm like, I don't know, he wasn't that chatty. He showed up, and the first time it was surreal. It's like I don't know what kind of other place this was that I was in, but it wasn't here, and it wasn't on the other side quite either. So the scenario for the first time is quite dramatic, the way that it took place. I was in college. I had to come home from work. I went to work at 5 a.m. to like 12 noon or something, and then I'd go to class or internship. And so I came home from work, and I would take a nap before I go to my class or whatever. So I'd go to work, and I came back, and I told my roommate, I said, "Oh, turn the TV down. I'm going to take a quick nap." "Oh, okay." And so I go to lay down on the bed, and you get yourself situated. You move your pillow, you move your blanket or something like that. I went to lay on the bed, and I fell off the bed. Boom! I was like, "Oh man, how did I miss the bed?" And I was like, get myself off the floor. I'm like, that's crazy. I know I was just swinging my legs around to get on the bed, and I'm looking around, and I am not in my bedroom. And I'm like, oh, hold on. I'm like, I'm in front of my parents' house, and I don't know how I got here. And I'm like, it was so just as real as I'm sitting here talking to you, sitting in my office. I'm like, I was standing there trying to explain away how I got there in my head. Like, okay, I was planning to meet a family friend here. I know I was going to come, but I don't remember how I got here. So I'm like, and my family friend's name was Quincy. And I looked down, my parents had a long driveway, and they're kind of out in the country. And I was like, look down the driveway, and I see this man walking towards the house at the end of the driveway. And I was like, oh, yep, here comes Quincy now. Yep, that's him. And then all of a sudden, this wave of recognition just smacked me. And I just put my face in my hands like, oh, my God. Like, ooh, is this who I think this is? And he got close. And he got right near me. And I'm palming my face. And he goes, hello. Like he's going to talk about the weather or something. He's just really friendly and casual. And I'm still palming my face. And I'm like, hello, being my silly self. And he goes, do you know who I am? If you knew who I was, you would not hesitate to say it. And I was like, oh, he's going to call my bluff. Like, he's going to make me say it. And I pulled my hands away from my face, and I was stuttering. I'm like, whoa, you're Jesus. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know why I called him Jesus. And when I looked up at him, he said, yes, I am. And I looked and I saw the flowing white robes and everything, and the bright sun behind his head shadowing his face, and he started talking about his life and how so much needed to be done and what he was aiming to do and all this stuff. And in the meantime, I am sitting there going, oh my gosh, I'm really here. Like, I'm looking around, I'm touching the ground. I'm like, hold on, why is the ground so close to me? And that's when I realized I was on my knees and didn't remember going on my knees. And as I'm kind of flipping out in my own head about this, I realized he got quiet. I feel like a kid that hasn't been paying attention in class, type of thing. And I'm touching the ground with my left hand. I look up at him, and I'm stuttering again. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? You know? And he's like, first, you need to show us some things. And he said, you need to finish writing your book. And that was the book I was writing on the topic of shadow people and Hat Man phenomenon. And he said, don't worry what others say. Know that I'll be there to give you the words. And and that meant a lot to me because I was really painfully shy, where I didn't even do presentations in college. Like, I just wouldn't. I would make sure I get my high A's, so I would get that subtraction of not doing my presentation and just deal with it because I wasn't going to do it. So when he said, I'll be there to give you the words, before I do anything, before I do a radio show, before I speak somewhere, I always look to the heavens and I'm like, you promised me you give me the words, and now I'm holding you to it, because I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say. So, so it was powerful, and he changed everything for me.
Now, did he look traditional, like how people, like from the paintings and everything? What did he look like physically?
Well, that's always a question that I get. It's like, well, was he white? I'll tell you, Quincy is not white. And that's who I thought he was. Quincy is a black man. I could tell you that the skin color was not as pale as people depict him to be. I could tell you had some color to his skin, but that's not what I was focused on. No, I was focused on the love that came off from him was immense. And it's hard to describe feeling love tickles from the inside out that just move you. And people are like, did you test the spirit to make sure it was him? I'm like, look, I could have been blind and seen it was him because every cell in my body screamed, it's Jesus. So I didn't have to question this to test the spirit. You would recognize him if you are part of his mission, I guess you say, his side of the fence, because I sure had no doubts, and you just don't, not in the presence of him. No.
Okay. Because I was watching something and you were saying that your mission was like saving souls. Like, you here to save souls.
I'm sorry?
I was watching an interview with you and you were saying like one of your missions is to save souls.
Yeah, that is, a lot of people want to try to save the planet and recycle and all this stuff, and that's great. But the ultimate thing worth saving here are the souls. It's the people. And I know that people are, not understanding because they hardly regard they even have a soul. But that's the main part. This planet recycles itself. It's just what it does, We could try to save it ourselves, but this planet ain't going nowhere. It's millions of years old. We're the hot mess on it, and our souls are needing to kind of move and evolve as well. Humankind does.
Who are you saving the souls from?
Well, it isn't anything positive.
No, I just want your answer. I know. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, there's a negative influence on this planet. There's a negative influence. People call it demons, the devil. All I need to know is what side of the fence it's on. They're connected, but they don't work well with each other either. But anything that is against God, against Jesus, anything is against humankind. Shadow people are like minions. Yeah, we make a cartoon of it, but minions are demons. And Hat Man, if he talks, I hope you never hear his voice because he will tell you he's the devil. And people in the thousands, if not the millions, have spoken about this revelation of him showing up all over the place. So the battle is going on right now. People are so concerned, waiting for something appearing in the sky. And I'm like, I'm getting emails from people who said, I thought I was going to die last night. That thing showed up and pulled my soul out of my chest and laughed at me. And then they have to pretend to go to work and be okay while we're sitting here trying to figure out if we have a soul. But this person felt their soul being yanked out. And, we got a major problem. So it's something that people need to be made aware of so they can better prepare themselves too. It's, so it's like, it's not entertainment.
No, I
it's
understand.
it's not a scare fact, tactic. It is all about trying to wake people up to the threat that is looming and lingering. And it's not just a possibility you'll be met with this stuff. It's a threat that you will be, because it's coming, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, you're the author and you coined the phrase the Hat Man and the Shadow People. You kind of answered some of my questions I was going to ask you about that, but we can still go back into it. Like,
Yeah.
what, like, all right, I'm gonna start with the Shadow People because I do remember watching an interview with you when you were saying that when you first heard about the Hat Man, you thought he was a shadow person, but you
Yeah.
realized it's a separate entity. But like, who are the Shadow People? I know you said they're the minions. Like, who are
Mhm.
where do they come from, and like, what do they want?
Well, this is not their planet. I mean, this is not the first planet they've done this to either. So they're a dark influence upon people. They're that little thing in your voice, I should say, they're their little voice inside of your head that's trying to push you to go one way or the other. So they do the dirty work, essentially, for bigger, badder things. But they suck too. I mean, they are, they like to just bully people. They like to pin them down. They like to make them feel helpless and cause harm in that way. But then, of course, there's, the ones that they work for mostly is a Hat Man. Hat Man is something that is a thing that wears a three-piece suit, trench coat, or cape. Sometimes he wears a hat. Sometimes he doesn't. His hat does change. His outfit can change as well. And he's out for like any bad human. They want the power. They want the land. They want the people. They want to say they owned it and they did it and they got that. And they're building an army. So
Like,
it's low down. It's very human of them, but it's happening.
okay, so like, can the Hat Man like possess people? Like, I'm guessing the Shadow People can possess people. Can the Hat Man do that too?
Oh yeah, I mean he could do that and do worse, but why? I mean he could just direct one of his minions to do it. He's got things to do, people to destroy.
What?
But yeah, he likes to go in and take a closer look at people's souls and laugh at it and say horrible things to them, do horrible things to them. I mean it's horror. It's as bad as you can imagine. Anything that you can imagine, he has done it to men, women, children, and especially children. He likes to try to break them in young so they lose all hope, become depressed, become dependent on drugs and alcohol, or lose interest in school because nobody believes them what's going on. I mean, he's horrible. I mean, his job is to destroy, and he's been pretty good at it so far.
So how do people? I'm sorry. I was gonna say, how do people like conjure up these things or like summon like the Shadow People or the Hat Man?
Oh, that's nothing I would ever talk about or suggest, so I'm not even going to go
Oh yeah,
there.
no,
So,
not
yeah.
to influence people to do it, but all right, I got you. Now I just
Yeah,
wanted to know.
yeah. It's like there's people that ask me that, believe it or not. It's like, how can I get them to come and talk to
Oh
me?
no, I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. No, I just wonder like if it's like certain types of people that it attached that they come to and
Uh-huh.
speak to. That's what I want to know. But
Yeah, I
not
was
on
one of
the.
the people. No, I got you. So a lot of people, they get this. They think that's because they did something horrible that they get this thing attached to them, and it can be that. But 9 times out of 10, it's because they are a bright light. Imagine that. There's somebody
Mm,
that is inclined to be talented, artistic, creative, and might even be able to see other things. Than be psychic. So that's more attractive to these negative things because they want to stomp out that light. They don't want that here. So yeah, so I've had so many people's like, I am a good Christian. I do this. I volunteer. I'm like, oh, you must. Oh, you are a prize to be had. Take it as a compliment. They're working so hard to get you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Is there? Would you be able to give like tips or advice for people that are dealing with these entities, like how to get rid of them or get them away from
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's probably the number one thing that people need to realize is these things come creeping around when you ain't looking, when you're down on your luck, when you're sick, when you're ill, when you're dying, when you're sleeping, because they can't take you on for who you are. Know that. Know that. The human potential is something to be handled. They can't handle. They got to paralyze you if you move. I mean, it's
Mm.
kind of silly when you think about it. It's like, oh, we got him now. Oh boy, you threw an army at this person, one person to take them down. That's something else. So know your strength, know your power, but number one, know that the name of Jesus brings them to their knees. I don't care if it's an alien, I don't care if it's a shadow being or a hat man. The name of Jesus, just get that out, or even think him, and it will leave. And have no doubts in that. And if you got an infestation of them just everywhere, you have to bless your home. And I'm not talking about calling up the local pastor, because this isn't his home. So why was he? You can't go on his faith. You got to go on your own. So going through and blessing it yourself. And I do have on my Facebook group it pinned there for people to in my Shadow People and Hatman Experiencer group on Facebook. I have it pinned there where people can learn how to bless their space. But also, if they go to shadowfolks.com and they write me, we'll send it to them. And if you have a story, if you've experienced something, anything out of the ordinary, because I've got books on everything from angels to aliens, shadow people to Hatman. If they have experienced something out of the ordinary, they are more than welcome to write me and tell me what's going on, and I will give them some level-headed advice on it. I'm the host on Coast to Coast AM's Paranormal Podcast Network. So my show is called Dark Becomes Light, and I will address their stuff there on the show. And if people see me on social media, I'm always pretty open. If I can jump on the line with people, I will. It is hard sometimes, but send me a message. I always try to reply to people.
Okay, okay. I appreciate that, and I appreciate having you on here. I had like
Yeah.
one more question, like
Mm-hmm.
slight topic, but you were recently on Mysteries Decoded with Jennifer Marshall.
Yes.
Yes, the Werewolf of Arkansas, correct?
That is Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky. I'm sorry. The Werewolf of Kentucky. I was just watching it on the CW earlier. I
Yeah.
just found out about that today.
Oh well, I'm humbled that you've been listening to my interviews on the show. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Jennifer Marshall is truly got her stuff together, and I like her approach, and I like that she's objective, but she pays attention. She listens. She doesn't bash people. She doesn't try to cause harm. She wants to believe. She wants
Yeah.
to believe. So I had a good time on there. I got to present the werewolves of Kentucky, and they have a dogman issue going on over there where something's attacking the livestock. Witnesses spoke on the show. Some really cool revelations happened. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but if you go to the CW app, it is 100% free to watch all the shows there. And check it out. It's episode 3, season 2. And the evidence is overwhelming, absolutely overwhelming. So that's another cryptids and cryptozoology. It's another area that I like to go into at times.
Okay. When filming the show, how many days did y'all film?
Oh gosh, that was see, we started at the beginning of the pandemic, right?
Okay, okay.
And then we got that big gap in between, and then we finished it like a year later almost. It was insane. So it's a few days. It was a few days that we did that. So and it was on on the set and live, and so much took place, and they didn't get it all in there. And honestly, I'm a person that puts a lot of faith into the experiencer and their reasonings for stepping forward. And the witnesses that we had, there's a reason, and it was to make a difference. It wasn't to, have a party or parade or make money. It was to help the next person that's seen something like that, and I've seen something myself. So, it's something to acknowledge and to respect when people are brave enough to step forward, because it is bravery.
Yeah. I remember watching an interview with you when you were saying like people being ridiculed could possibly cause them to be, isolate themselves, cause depression, even become suicidal. And it's good to just that they coming out and saying things, but that's real brave of them to do that.
Yeah, no, I am really humbled that you paid attention to all this stuff. I swear, because honestly, over the years, the people, they lose their families, they get divorced, they're called crazy in the court trying to have visiting rights to see their kids. It's crazy what they do to people who step forward on this stuff and sit alone in it too. Like they can't even roll over in bed and tell their husband or wife, like, I just saw something and it changed everything. And nope, it's held against them. And people that are truly passionate in this field, you will find that a lot of them have these types of stories. For me, I could care less what other people think, because I know I trust my senses. Mm-hmm. I trust myself. I trust that, if I could be sane and everything else in my life, I'm okay diving into these topics as well. I don't question, suddenly I'm just wrong. So, yeah. So it's important. It's important. And it's important that we all step up too, to help protect people that are dealing with these things, Yeah. It's like, imagine, since when is abduction okay? People say they've been abducted by aliens and absolutely violated, and people have a good laugh, and these people have been abused in every manner you can imagine sometimes. And something's got to change. We can't keep doing this to each other.
No, you're right about that. And speaking of abduction, I did have one more question I forgot to ask you. What do you believe happens to missing people? Because I was watching you talk about that too, just people missing people.
Yeah, there's definitely a problem. I was told I've had alien contact. I've never been abducted, but beings that came and talked to me, my college roommate, who said, not everybody is brought back. Sometimes they are considered an experiment or food. I mean, it's nasty. It's just nasty what some of them do. And people have reportedly seen people in these giant tubes, and why do they have them in these tubes and threaten things, like especially reptilian type beings? They're horrible, the stuff that they do to people. So sometimes they're taken off planet. Sometimes, other abuses happen to them. They're made to breed. I mean, how many people are missing? We never find them, or this, the Bigfoot, the missing 411, Bigfoot, if the Bigfoot was sighted in the area and somebody goes missing, guess what? You can't go in there trying to search for the person. You can't go in there with search dogs either. Suddenly we got this really heightened presence of almost like a military operation going on. Mm-hmm. Something's happening, and we gotta wake up. And we, the people, are supposed to run this thing, and we're not, and it's horrible.